Hello, everybody. Welcome to another episode of Lazio Lounge. I'm sorry if I'm still shaking, but the last minute of Empoli-Lazio was really too much for me. I thought my heart would have been too much for my heart and for myself. I was really struggling. But anyway, here we are talking about Empoli-Lazio. I'm Vittorio Campanile. With me, Alistair McKenzie. How are you, Alistair? I hope you are better than me.
Not much better. I think, this is what you get, I suppose, when we do our shows immediately after the full-time whistle, is the kind of shaky voices, which, you're right, it was an unbelievably dramatic end. I don't think anybody wanted to see such drama at the tail end of the game, but there you go, we've got away with a win, so that's one thing.
I mean, I thought it was enough Marusic missing that huge chance all alone in front of the goalkeeper, but no, it wasn't. Wallace has, after a good match of Wallace, we were talking about it before, he forgot, he fell asleep, and luckily Strakosha made an incredible save. Again, another very good performance of Strakosha. Very good in stop shotting. I think he has to be more careful with the ball distribution. Again, in the second half, he's been too risky, and this is something that can cost us point that at the end of the season can make a big difference.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, that's something that we've discussed at length for quite a long time now. But the thing that worries me about Strakosha's distribution isn't so much the fact that it happens when he's under pressure, but it happens when he's not under pressure. And there's a couple of moments tonight where he's got the ball and he gets his head up and he has a look at the options available to him, and he still just punts it to directly to an Empoli player. So that is definitely the weakness in his game. But look, it's not a time to really be criticising anything about Strakosha's game, because we have him to thank for getting 3 points tonight at the end of the day. I mean, that was such an unbelievable reaction save at the end that I didn't even realise initially that it was a save, because it was such close distance. You couldn't really see on the TV that he'd made a save until the slow motion replays came through. So yeah, an unbelievable reaction, and those are the moments. That's why you need a good goalkeeper. That's why people say that goalkeepers win you points over the course of the season, is that they pull off moments like that.
Absolutely. I mean, it was funny that there were people complaining about Strakosha after Lazio Napoli. I thought he proved already that he's, if not one of the best goalkeeper in Serie A, I would put it in the top three, especially now that Alisson and Buffon are not in the Serie A anymore. So really, he's one of the. In Italy, you say that very good goalkeepers give you 3-4 points a season. I think Strakosha can be in that category. I think with his incredible saves, he's able to give Lazio 3-4 points. Of course, he's not scoring, but the goal he saved today twice would give Lazio 2 points more. So.
Yeah, definitely. And likewise, the chance that Marusic missed loses you points in a season as well. But again, I think Marusic was disappointing tonight. I think I sent out a tweet at half time, basically. I thought the first half was so disappointing. I'm sure we'll get round to that. But Lazio were incredibly inaccurate in that first half, and I think we're quite lucky to still be level. And second half, everything improved, actually. And I think across the board, the overall performance did get better until everyone got nervous towards the end. But one thing in particular that got better was that Parolo and Marusic down the right started to get more involved with the attacks. And that was a great example of it, because that's the 90th minute. So to see your wing-back still willing to get involved in the attacks, and if he'd pulled that off and finished that chance, we would be sitting here praising him for having the bravery to go and support that attack and finish it off and put the game to bed. But unfortunately, he just lacked the composure to do it. It's on the wrong foot, and it was a bit of a mess for him in the end. But I think that Marusic generally has come in for quite a lot of criticism at the start of the season. He's not the only one, but that's not going to help him and his confidence.
No, absolutely. Before talking about the match and discussing further all about the match, I have an important message. If we have a scientist listening to us, please, can you clone Leva? Please. I mean, he has played so well tonight. I don't know, Alistair, if you agree, but he was everywhere. So if we can have a second Leva, I think Lazio can easily win the Scudetto.
Woof, big claim. Well, I don't know. I'd be quite an impressive scientist if they can pull this off for us, to be honest. I thought that I'm glad you brought that up, because watching the second half in particular, I was thinking this is definitely one of the better games we've seen Lucas have this season, and I think we've missed that kind of performance from him as well, because I wouldn't say that he's been all that brilliant so far this season, and we need him to have these games where he's what he does so well is when he wins those tackles cleanly and he can turn defence into attack very quickly. And in the first half, I was getting a bit frustrated with him because he did a couple of very clumsy challenges to begin with and gave away free kicks. But soon after that, he kind of transformed things. And yeah, even when he pulled his hamstring, he was back up helping defence. And you're right, I think that if he's going to be playing at that level, that's going to be absolutely crucial to Lazio getting results, and particularly getting results in this kind of... And don't forget, that's 2 games in a row now that we've won 1-0, but also 2 games in a row where towards the tail end we've been a bit nervous, and more nervous tonight than against Frosinone, no doubt about that. But I think we can take a lot of encouragement from the fact that this team's managed to see out those results and get 3 points, because Lucas said himself, now that you brought it up, after the Frosinone game, that he didn't think that Lazio would have managed to do that last season, to get 3 points from a game like that. So I expect he'll feel the same way about tonight's game.
Yeah, and one thing I thought Lucas Leiva was great, not only the tackles as you were saying, but even the ball distribution. I thought in the second half, especially in the last 20-25 minutes, we were losing so many balls in midfield. He was the only one that was distributing the ball cleverly without losing it and making Lazio counter-attack again. So I thought that was really important. You know, he was calm in a very difficult situation, obviously, because I think Lazio players were very, very tired, and him as well, I think. But he was still keeping he was able to pass the ball and not losing the ball in that key part of the field that was really important. And so when I saw him going down, I thought, oh my, these last minutes are going to be really, really difficult, even because Lazio already made three substitutions, so there was no chance of making him come out. But he recovered, so I think it was just a little bit of tiredness, and I thought he was by far the man of the match, even though Strakosha made 2 incredible saves.
Yeah, no, I think it'd be hard to argue with that. I mean, I also thought Lulic had a very good game again. He was the best player on the pitch a couple of weeks ago against Frosinone, and again, I thought he was the biggest outlet for Lazio's attacks, and that's a big improvement from last season. I mean, we had quite a lot of discussions during the season last year about Lulic's position, whether he's better on the left wing, whether he's better in the middle, and whether he's worth having in the team at all. And the last couple of games, he's been one of our best players. And again tonight, I think, he's just so direct. The one thing he does is he just runs, and he never stops running. But he just attacks defences, and he exploits the space and moves into the space. And yeah, he's not the most technical player, and he's not the most... He's not someone who's going to perform a step over and curl an amazing ball directly to who you want it to go to, but he does get into the right positions. And so I think that he would be, for me, the biggest rival to Lucas tonight as a man of the match. And
another very important thing is that Lulic come back all the time. So if Lazio is struggling, he's always there running back and trying to help the defense. Something we didn't see from all the other players, and that's, I think, a little bit why Lazio struggled at a certain point against Empoli because they were attacking with a lot of players. Andreazzoli at a certain point put 4 strikers on the pitch, so it was obvious that Lazio could struggle there. But thanks to Lulic, thanks to Marusic as well, who was tracking back all the time, Lazio didn't struggle that much. So I think that's one of the key things of Lulic. He's always running both way. And I mean, I would place him third place, honestly, tonight after Leiva and Strakosha. But I thought he had another good performance. And it's not the first one this season, which is it's really promising.
Yeah, but I mean, I suppose it does beg the question that if you're talking about these three as being the biggest contenders for a man of the match award in the game against Empoli, we need to address what's going on with our star players, because Alberto, Milinkovic-Savic were both taken off tonight. Immobile was pretty ineffective again. He did have chances, but I would say is still off the pace in comparison to where he was last season. And I think it's good to see us getting results without those players being at the top of their game. But in order for us to reach the levels we did last season, we're going to need that to start clicking again ASAP.
Yeah. One thing I wanted to ask you, because you were talking about Ciro Immobile, I thought, again, he was quite alone in front. Luis Alberto keeps tracking down and playing nearly in the same line with the midfielder. Milinkovic-Savic comes up pretty much only for crosses, so he's not very near Ciro Immobile. So often you see Ciro Immobile alone against 3-4 defenders. And, you know, probably he's not in his top form, but even if he was, he would struggle a lot to get all the time free with 4 defenders marking only him. That is what I saw. Do you agree with me, or you saw a different thing?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think this has been one of the major talking points of Lazio's performances so far this season is the disconnect defence and midfield and attack. I don't think this team is looking like a cohesive unit yet, and you would be able to forgive that more easily if there were a lot of new signings being bedded into this team and it needed time to gel. But that's not the case here. The only signing who's coming into this team is Acerbi, and Acerbi slots in very comfortably. So I can't really put a finger on any reason why this isn't working at the moment. And to be honest with you, I mean, I don't know if you agree with this, but I don't really buy into the whole this team's still suffering from the setback of losing out in the Champions League. I don't think footballers' mentalities operate that way. I mean, as far as the ones I've talked to and people I've met, I just can't believe that something that happened 4 months ago is still such a big deal for these guys that they're struggling. I think a new season is a turn of the page, and that they should be refreshed and ready for a new season. I just think that this tactical system that Inzaghi's got is perhaps a bit too predictable now. And that's something we talked about a lot last season, but he's not showing an awful lot of willingness to adapt it. And I think that once Luis Alberto has been marked out of the game, which he has been constantly so far this season, you're taking away Lazio's pivot. You know, he's the guy who connects that midfield to Ciro. And once he's been taken out of the game, which he has been frequently this season, that leaves Ciro more or less by himself. So I think that might be one of the biggest problems so far that Inzaghi has to address, is that without Alberto working, the team doesn't really work alongside Ciro.
I think the problem is that Luis Alberto is not in a great physical condition, and he was the one closing the gap between the midfielder and Ciro Immobile. Now he's too far behind and doesn't have the pace, the energy, the speed to catch up and get closer to Ciro Immobile, and that's one of the problems why Lazio is not that dangerous. Plus, the wingers are the secret of the 3-5-2, and as you were saying before, again, Marusic didn't have a great match. I thought he grew in the second half of the match. In the second half, in the first one, I think he was pretty much invisible. And so, if you attack only on one side, then for the other team it's easier to stop you, right? You put two players marking Lulic because you know that on the other side Lazio is pretty much useless, and so Lazio have to find other solution. Again, I think scoring the goal that at the end of the match would have give more confidence to Marusic. Unfortunately, he missed it. I don't know how this will affect his future performance, but the other problem is Lazio doesn't have any option there at the moment. Do you start Patrick next Sunday? Do you start Basta? I don't know.
I'm not against the idea of reintegrating Basta, if I'm honest. I mean, I think that yes, he's getting older and he's probably past his best. I doubt we're going to see the same Basta that we got under Stefano Pioli, who was tremendous. But I think it is worth applying pressure to a number of these guys in positions who aren't performing, because you can name Inzaghi's starting 11 very easily because he very rarely rotates it. And up until this point, the only position that's had any sort of discussion about an alternative is that right centre-back spot, whether it's going to be Wallace, Cáceres, Bastos, Luis Felipe, whoever it's going to be. Other than that, the team more or less picks itself. But I don't think Marusic is been playing well enough to justify that automatic selection, and B, has kind of earned that automatic selection yet, because he's only been at the club for one season. I think he did very well in that season, a lot better than I expected when he first arrived from Belgium. But I just think that when you've got a guy like Basta, who's a very experienced, wily Serie A fullback who's been in this league a long time, it might be worth reintegrating him, at least giving him a chance to see what he can do again.
Alistair, one thing important, because I'm reading a lot of tweets of fans not very happy. Let's not forget that Empoli is not a bad team. We saw Empoli playing really well. They play a very attacking, aggressive football, but they are able to play well. So it's not like Lazio Frosinone, where we saw yesterday Frosinone being destroyed again. Empoli, it's a good team. So winning there, it's not very easy. And the other thing is, for maybe people who doesn't watch a lot Serie A, it's not like Premier League or La Liga. Even the bad teams, let's call it like that, like Empoli or Chievo, etc., they're putting a lot of fights when they have a big team playing against. And it's never easy in Serie A to win a match, especially 3-0 or 4-0 as happened in Premier League or La Liga especially, because they study very well and they want to put up a show, because players know that if I play well against Lazio or Roma, etc., then maybe next summer I'm going to be picked by a big team. So, Empoli, for me, it's a good team. I'm not saying it's going to be reaching the Europe League, but it's not going to be easy to win at Empoli. I don't think a lot of teams will be able to do it.
No, and you're quite right. And to demonstrate that, Empoli have won 3 of their last 4 home games against Lazio. So that's something that people might forget because they've been in and out of the league, but that isn't an easy place to go. The most recent one, which was in 2017, I think Lazio did win. So maybe people are forgetting it because of that. But Lazio generally travelling to Empoli have a tough time. And a lot of teams will, because that's, like you say, they're an attacking team. They scored a lot of goals. They scored 88 in Serie B last season, which is just one fewer than we managed in Serie A. So this is a team who have a lot of attacking potential. I thought we did a really good job of last weekend. I mentioned Mia Zajic is a big danger man, and I think we did really well to keep him very quiet tonight. But they did create a lot of chances themselves. And it's not the same thing as playing Frosinone. It's not the same thing as playing a team who are simply there to camp in, defend, and wait for you. So, although the 2 games, you can draw huge comparisons between them. They're both 1-0 wins. They're both games in which Lazio scored just after half-time, and just about managed to hold on to hold on to the lead. But beyond that, they're very different challenges. So I wouldn't fall into the trap of looking at them as being exactly the same game. No.
No, absolutely. And I'm sorry, did I burn your stats of the day when you said that Lazio lost the last 4 matches at Empoli, or you had another one for finishing the show?
I've got a whole page of stats to
Cool, perfect. Yeah, that's a very interesting point. And yeah, I remember every time playing against Empoli, it was trouble for us. And just to give an example, Empoli finished with 4 strikers. It's not very, very often you see something like that for a small team. They were really trying to take 1 point out of this match. So it was really difficult for Lazio, especially because a lot of Lazio players for me were really tired. Milinkovic, Savic, Luis Alberto came out. I think Immobile was tired as well. I don't know Lulic how he finished the match. Leiva had problems. So it's not easy to defend so many men when you feel the fatigue. So I thought it's an important win. And as Leiva said last Sunday, 2 Sundays ago, this type of match Lazio last year would have drawn them. And winning this matches 1-0 that makes the difference for the Champions League position. Because it's not the 5-0 match when everything goes well. It's when not everything works that if you are able to get the 3 points, then you can really fight for the Champions League. So and then the other thing, just look the other teams. Inter lost again at home, Roma lost again at home, Napoli win struggling against Fiorentina, who is a very good team. It's going to be complicated against Fiorentina, I think, for everybody. But this Serie A, Juve, if you take off Juve of the equation, it's going to be really, really tough. It's going to be really, really interesting to watch and to see who reached the Champions League this year.
Oh yeah, it's wide open. It really is wide open. And actually, to be honest, at this point, having seen some of the big teams in the flesh already, it's pretty obvious that race might go beyond the top 6 this season as well. I don't think the gap between 6th and 7th is as big as it was before either. So yeah, it's going to be a very open league this year. But yeah, I think that, look, the other thing is we made a lot about the fact that the fixtures went against us. We were given Juventus and Napoli in our first 2 fixtures. Okay, so obviously nobody hoped to get 2 defeats from that, but people might have realistically thought that it's potentially going to happen. It happened, okay? We're not very happy about that, but we have tried to stay positive. But I do think that despite the fact that it is just Juventus and Napoli, the team is still going to have to build itself back up from there, because that I think as a team and with the confidence you need to move forward, I think that losing your first 2 games does strike a bit of a blow. So look, winning 2 games 1-0 against teams who will be deemed smaller in the league, that's a really good return. I think we should be very happy about that. Especially, like you're saying, when you consider looking at the league and looking at the results, particularly this weekend, Parma beating Inter, Chievo coming back against Roma. This is not an easy league, so to get those results is a positive thing, and especially coming off 2 defeats. And I think it will give us, hopefully, a platform to build on. And on Thursday as well, once we get into Europe, we'll start to see a lot more of the fringe players and the new signings, and that will hopefully as well give Inzaghi a bit more to think about in terms of his selection for these league games.
Yeah, absolutely. Who would have thought after losing against Napoli and Juventus, the Lazio, after 4 matches, would have been in front of Roma, who didn't play against Juventus and Napoli, still have to play. Inter
are the anti-Juve, remember?
Yeah, Inter is 2 points behind, and they play against Sassuolo, Parma, match at home, match who should have been easy. Milan still have to play, but it's 3 points behind Lazio. So, I think the table now it's really good. But before going deeper can we say, Alistair, why you went to Rome? Why you moved to Rome?
Well, to thwart Roma's results by turning up at their games and making them feel nervous.
Can you tell everybody how many Roma match you watched today this year?
2.
And can you tell me how many points Roma got in those 2 matches?
2.
Was it against Juventus or Napoli?
It was against Atalanta, B team, and Chievo.
Now everybody, you understand why Alistair moved to Rome, right? This is his job. He's making Roma lose against top team.
After all these years of you criticising me for making Lazio play badly, it turns out it's the other way around.
Now the biggest question is, do you go to the derby, or because you didn't help Lazio as well? So I'm not sure.
Well, the derby is a Roma home game, so I think if I turn up in the press box for that one, it's can only bode well for Lazio, hopefully.
Okay, let's see. Ramil Gendi, one of the first question, said, talked well about Correa. I'm impressed with Correa and think he has a lot more to offer. Did he impress you? Alistair, what's your thought about Correa?
At first, not at all. If you were talking about tonight, I thought he was a player who kind of had something to prove when he came on, and he tried to do a bit too much, and he was giving away the ball, and then he was giving away fouls, and I don't think he was really providing too much for the team after he first came on. But towards the end of the game, I mean, you were talking about the way that Lucas manages to, distribute and use the ball very sensibly under pressure towards the end of that game. And actually, I think that what Correa impressed me most with tonight was that he managed to do the same thing in the final 5-10 minutes of that game. And he was the one who set up Marisic, don't forget, for that chance right at the end, I think. So yeah, I do think he's definitely got something to offer, and it's quite hard to make an educated judgment on him and how he fits into this team from a handful of substitute appearances. I think we really need to see him get a proper run before we can do that. But I do think almost 100% that he will be starting on Thursday night against Apollon. So yeah, that'll be our first opportunity to see what he can do. And to be honest, though, I am excited by him as a player. I think he does have all the qualities that we need to really be challenging to get Alberto out of that team. Not that that's what I'm campaigning for, but I think it's healthy across the team to have people who are putting pressure on you to get your position, to take your shirt off you. And I think Correa is genuinely capable of doing that. So we'll see. But I do think it's important for him to make sure that he plays for the team, not for himself, and that he does make an impression really in these games that he's going to get, which are likely to be, to begin with at least, against teams in the Europa League.
I think he cannot play Thursday because he got banned with Sevilla, so he won't be able to play against Apoel Thursday.
Scrap everything I've just said.
I didn't know how to stop you. But Inzaghi make him warm up at the beginning, at half of the first half, because Luis Alberto wasn't playing well, and I thought, I thought it was the right move to make him start, maybe make him come in at the end of the first half. I thought he struggled, just as you were saying at the beginning. Now I don't know if he was struggling because he was playing near Luis Alberto, and then when Luis Alberto came off, he improved because Luis Alberto was struggling, or because he struggled to find the right position to play near Luis Alberto. But coincidence is that when Luis Alberto came off, he started playing much better. As you were saying, he gave that incredible chance to Marusic. He hit the post as well, and provided a couple of assists to Ciro Immobile. So I thought he played well. And the other positive thing is he came back to defend also. So he helped the defense, which was important. for Lazio. So yeah, I thought he had a good match. I thought he played well. Again, as you were saying, I want to see him playing 90 minutes. And the question that a lot of people are asking, and I'm asking too, is with Luis Alberto playing like that, do you think it's right to start him next Sunday, for example, to start Correa instead of Luis Alberto?
I think he could, yeah. Yeah, I'm annoyed I forgot that about him being suspended, because I remember reading that actually earlier today and I've completely forgotten it that quickly. Anyway.
I will cancel that part after, don't worry.
Yeah, edit it out, yeah. Yeah, no, I think it's possible, yeah, because I think Inzaghi picking Alberto for the Frosinone game was a real statement of intent and of faith in him. And when Alberto scored, he sprinted over to the bench to celebrate and so on. And Inzaghi is the guy who's got the best sight of Alberto, so I think there is a big connection between the two of them, and the fact that Inzaghi does believe he's the guy who can get the best out of this player. But yeah, you can't really ignore form, and Alberto's form hasn't been top. I mean, at the same time, you could say the same thing about Milinkovic-Savic and Immobile with the first part of the season. Maybe not to the same extent, but you can make the same argument. But I suppose they don't have the same competition quite as strongly for their shirts. So yeah, I'd think that if Correa was to come into the team, I think this might be a good time to do it, to try it at least. And sometimes you see that work quite effectively as well in terms of a squad rotation tactic. If you do drop a player to the bench like Alberto, and if Alberto's going to have to start on Thursday as well in that position, then that might give Correa an extra chance of getting into the team this weekend. But say you were to drop Alberto to the bench, then bring him on in the second half, he might be even extra motivated when he does come on off the bench with, say, I don't know, half an hour to go or so. So, possibly.
I think Luis Alberto is the only one who has a real competitor. You were talking about Ciro Immobile and Milinkovic-Savic. Well, Milinkovic-Savic has Berisha when he's going to be fit. But really, do you bench Ciro Immobile to put in Caicedo, to start Caicedo? Now, I don't know what our listener thinks, but let me know if someone is saying, yeah, next Sunday, Ciro Immobile is not playing well. Let's start Caicedo and see what happens. I don't think nobody would do it. By the way,
if Felipe Caicedo's mum is a listener,
maybe she won't do it as well. By the way, Cagliari is winning 1-0 against Milan after 3 minutes. It's very early, but it's a good start. One thing I wanted to raise is, again, for the second consecutive match, Alessandro Rossi wasn't in the bench. We know that Lazio can bring 11 players in the bench, and he was dropped. Again, it's nothing special, but for me it's a little bit a sign, a message that Caicedo is the real number 2 and Alessandro Rossi is there for emergency.
Yeah, well, I don't think there's any doubts about that anymore, unfortunately. I think that what Rossi's going to have to do basically is make sure that any opportunity he gets, which is clearly going to be very limited this season, he makes the most of. But Caicedo is the number 2. I don't think there's any debate about that anymore. And I suppose if you're looking at the squad, though, that considering, yeah, like you said, that the fact that you can have 12 substitutes, I think 12 including the goalkeeper, on your bench, that's a big number, that does leave you with options. So for Rossi to not even be getting into the 12, I do find a bit stranger, just because even if he is a number 2 to Caicedo, that's very few attacking options you're giving yourself on your bench. Do we Do we need two keepers? I mean, I don't know if there's a rule about that. Do we
I,
need so many defenders?
I think the rule is for two goalkeepers on the bench, and that's it. I don't know. Probably he's considering Correa another attacking player, so that's why he keeps two. But I would have brought Rossi, honestly. And again, none of the two Portuguese are there, even after Pedro Neto scored with the Portugal team. Again, a nice goal. I don't know. This is a message I feel that Inzaghi is sending. I don't know if he's sending to the fans or to Tare, saying that he needs more. But yeah, and the fact that Caicedo didn't play a lot this season maybe says that Inzaghi is not confident of having Oli Caicedo there. But I don't know. We're gonna see. I mean, Thursday we're gonna see a lot. If Immobile starts again, then I think Inzaghi is not happy about Caicedo. Alistair, are you still there?
Yeah, I'm still here. Sorry, you cut off at the end there. I didn't hear the end of you.
I'm saying that, if Caicedo doesn't start Thursday, then this is a message that Inzaghi is not happy of having Caicedo.
Well, yeah, but I mean, he has to be careful with Tiro as well. That's the only thing. I mean, although at this point, I suppose I'll pose this question to you, but would you rather see Chiro starting in games against smaller teams? I mean, I don't think Apollon is going to be an easy game by any means, but they are going to be the easiest game we've got in this group stage, presumably. So would you like to see him start those games in order to maybe score a goal and get his confidence back a bit? Or is it a good time to rotate and give him a rest?
You put a valid point. Ciro Immobile didn't score again, so maybe for him it would be important to score, but at the same time he needs to rest, and Lazio has a lot of important match coming on in the next week, and so I think it would be good to rest Ciro Immobile. The other thing important that I wanted to bring up, last year Lazio started very, very well the season, and then at the end of the season it was knackered. We said it probably already in February. Some of the players were very tired. This season Lazio started slowly. I hope this means that the player will be on form and will arrive on top of the form at the end of the season, where the qualification for Champions League or Europe in general will be decided. This is my positive way of thinking. Maybe Inzaghi and his staff change a little bit the summer training to make the players be on form around December and not being knackered when it's the end of the season.
Well, yeah. I don't know. I mean, I think he is going to be a lot more aware of what he's up against, I suppose. I mean, I mentioned this last week. The fact that last season was the first time that Inzaghi had to juggle a European and domestic campaign. I think it was amazing how close he got us to both a semi-final and Champions League football. Obviously, falling short, but it's his first time coping with that challenge and with a squad that's pretty thin. And I think the squad is now better than it was in terms of depth. I think he's got more options. So I think he'll be able to deal with it better, the challenge of actually doing that. And to be honest, I think it's, like I said before, I think it's a bit soon to say we've started slowly. I mean, we did beat Juventus in the Supercoppa last season, but it's not a league game, so it's not quite the same thing as losing to them this time around. But, the fact that we've had those Juve-Napoli games to begin with, I think we've actually built ourselves a decent platform here with these two wins. They're not wins that are going to impress anyone. They're not wins that are going to get many people talking about Lazio being a big top four contender. But to be honest, I've always thought that Lazio thrive in that context a lot better. I think we're a team that produces better performances by being the underdog than by having expectation placed on us to be the team who's leading the way. So I think that could work out an advantage.
I'm not talking about results. I'm talking about performance. You know how Lazio have played in this in the first week of the season. I thought last year, for example, Luis Alberto was another player. He was in great shape and was running all around. Now you see that he's not like that. You know, he's really tired. He's not able to run, dribble past his opponent running. We're talking about Luis Alberto, but I think Immobile, Milinkovic Savic, the same Parolo probably is not as that condition. So that is what I wanted to say.
Yeah, no, you've got a point, definitely. It's the performances haven't been brilliant, but again, I think we shouldn't underestimate the importance of, having a trait of getting results from games where you're not playing well. That is what big teams notoriously do. It's a bit of a cliche, but it is true. And if we're getting results in the last two games by not playing particularly well, then we are at least building a platform for the team to go and improve the performances. Having said that, I do think the performances will need to improve in the next two games, because I do think it's going to be another step up again, because you've got Genoa, who are doing pretty well, and an incredibly dangerous striker in Piatek, who I'm very worried about playing against this Lazio defence. And then you've got Udinese, not so much perhaps, but a bit unpredictable, I would say, under their new coach. And then a derby, so it's a very important month.
Without forgetting all the Europe League match that are gonna drain energy. But I think, and this is something I want to talk. I think for Lazio it's really important to have the Europe League, because it gives chances to players that are not playing a lot, like Murgia, who scored with the under-21. Cataldi is another player. Berisha and so on, to play from the beginning, get in shape and show their talent, show that they are a quality player and they deserve to play more and more, and provide more option to Inzaghi. Because, as my son was saying today, Lazio is playing with the same player of last year. The only difference is Acerbi. So Lazio need to change, and I think Europe League comes in the perfect time now, because it will give. I hope Inzaghi will give the chance for this player to play a little bit more, even Bastos.
Yeah, I mean it's a chance to rotate. It's a chance for more players to come into the team, and I think. I don't know if you agree, but I think it does need freshened up at this point. I mean, it's been a while since we've seen anything that interesting happen in terms of team selection. So it'd be interesting to actually get a few. I mean, Milan Badel for me is too good a player to be sitting on our bench this whole time. I think there has to be a way of integrating a guy of that quality into the team.
Yeah, and it's another player who played against Napoli, and you can see that was out of shape completely. So. He needs to play to get his shape again and perform as we know him. And so again, Europe League would be perfect for him to play and show his talent. We had a couple of questions, Alistair, all pretty much asking the same thing. Does Lazio need to move from the 3-5-2? Yes, I think it does, but it's even true that with Correa, with Marusic, with Berisha, I think Lazio have a lot of option to do it. Maybe starting from a 3-5-2, but switching during the match, or even at the beginning, from a 3-4-1-2, etc. We saw it today a little bit when Luis Alberto and Correa were playing together. But I think we can see it more in the coming days, and maybe in Europe League is a good chance to see it, a different tactic.
Yeah, well, I'm not totally sure about that, because I think if we'd been given an easier Europa League group, Inzaghi would have been more inclined to experiment. Given the difficulty of the group we've got, I can't really imagine him being too experimental. I mean, he's quite a pragmatic guy anyway. I don't think he's really too inclined to tinker too much with what he believes to be the best tactical system for this team. So, given there is a lot of pressure in the context of this Europa League group. There's a lot of pressure on this game on Thursday night because Lazio have to really be winning that in order to hope to get through to the knockout stages. So I'm not very confident we're going to see any sort of tactical changes. If I'm honest, I think that the personnel will change, but I don't think we're going to see much different in the way of tactics.
Yeah, well, we're gonna see. In the meantime, Inzaghi has spoken after the match. He said it's very important to win again 1-0. Last season we scored more, but we allowed too many goals. So we have been great in adjusting this thing. About Ciro Immobile, it's strange because when he doesn't score for 3 matches in a row, it's a news. He's improving. He's working hard to get back to his shape, and early he will score again. In the first half, we struggled because Empoli was moving a lot the ball, and we weren't able to stop them. Then what he said, the problem with Immobile and Luis Alberto, both of them had injury problems. I don't remember this, but anyway. But now they are improving, like this, even Milinkovic-Savic and the others. We started well the match, but it's not easy playing against Empoli. A lot of other teams will struggle against them. And then he said about Radu that could be a bad injury, while Leva is only cramped, so it shouldn't be nothing bad.
Well, we definitely don't want a bad injury to Radu. That would be a problem.
Even because, I don't know if you agree, I didn't like the performance of Cáceres. With his experience, I thought he would come and help, the distribution like Leva did. Instead, no, I was expecting much more from him tonight.
Yeah, I know what you mean. He's a bit kind of erratic. He was quite hurried in the way he dealt with things. I don't know if that's just coming off from the bench cold, without much warning, being an injury substitution or what it was. But yeah, we don't have any other natural left-sided players to be on that, to stand in for Radu, which means if any players are going to get injured, it's a bit of an issue. And I suppose Luis Felipe has been there before as well, but he's still coming back from an injury as well. So it does become a bit worrying if you start considering putting Bastos there, for example. He's erratic enough on his more comfortable side, so to put him on the left side would give me a few nightmares, I think. So yeah, hopefully, we'll have to wait and see what the prognosis is, but hopefully, it does just go to show how important Radu is, I suppose.
Yeah. What do you think, talking about the defenders, what do you think about the performance of Wallace? Because I thought he played well. He made a couple of mistakes, but he was nearly ruining everything with the mistake he made at the last second. And now, for everybody, he will be, this is Wallace for... It was a bad mistake, let's be honest. But I thought he was having another positive match, and he nearly ruined everything in the last second.
Yeah, but that pretty much sums up his entire Lazio career so far, doesn't it? It's the same story with Wallace. He's a good defender and a pretty solid defender who's pretty comfortable on the ball. There was an amazing moment, I don't know if you remember it, in the second half, with about 20 minutes to go, where he kind of did this very elegant turn to kind of sell the defender and then pinged this pass from one side of the pitch to the other. Incredibly accurate pass. And his distribution throughout the game was very good. He was making good interceptions. He was reading the game well. And yeah, like you say, he makes one mistake that will be undoubtedly a video on Twitter that will go round and round and round. And people are going to laugh at him and criticize him. And it was a bad mistake, don't get me wrong. I'm not going to stand up for him for that. I think he massively missed. And that's probably the biggest area of his game that needs improvement is his judgment and his decision making. It always has been. But I think on the whole, we can't judge his entire performance on that one moment. You know, it's one moment that he's got things badly wrong. But on the whole, he put in a pretty decent performance, I would say.
Yeah, and again, another incredible performance from Acerbi. It looks like he played for Lazio for 5 years, not just 3 matches. He's so comfortable. He's commanding the defense, and he's always there when needed. Really, a great signing for Lazio. Honestly, I didn't believe he could be like that straight away. He's really a nice signing for Lazio, and he's showing all his experience, all his talent, and his leadership. So again, another very positive performance from Acerbi. And again, the question is, next Thursday, even knowing that Luis Felipe won't be able to play, do you bench him? Do you rotate the defense? Obviously, you cannot put all the 3 starters on the bench. Radu's not playing. Maybe you can start Bastos instead of Wallace. I think you have to start Acerbi.
Yeah, I think so, yeah. I told you last week, he's my man crush. I love the guy.
Yeah,
I can't
absolutely.
wait for him to score his first Lazio goal. It'll probably be enough for me to go and buy Lazio Maglia Bandiera with his name on it. I think he's pretty much irreplaceable already in that centre defence. I think Luis Felipe is going to be the guy who's the number 2 as the centre of that back 3. But like you say, he's not injured, so he is injured. So I don't think you can really put anyone else into that position very easily and hope to get results. So for me on Thursday, he does have to start. Yeah.
And I think I want to see Ramos playing or on the right or on the left. I think he's the only one who can play in those positions near Acerbi. He's very good defender, marking defender as well, so he has that option as well. We didn't say a word to Marco Parolo, and we got these 3 points thanks to him. It wasn't probably his best goal of his career, but him like Milinkovic Savic is always the guy getting in the box when the ball is coming in. So you can get lucky, and I thought he had a good performance again. And yeah, the balance he gives to the midfield is very important.
Well, it's funny you say that he's always the guy who gets in the box, because that was the one thing that really annoyed me from the first half that I sent out a tweet about, was the fact that he wasn't doing that in the first half at all. Him and Marisic on the right-hand side weren't providing an attacking threat, and it was all coming down the left. And Parolo, that's what we know him for. He's the guy he's the ultimate box-to-box midfielder, covers so much ground, gets in the position to support the attacks, support the strikers. But he wasn't doing that in the first half. It just wasn't happening. And then the second half, that attack that led to the goal, you saw Lazio come forward, and there are about five Lazio players in a line coming forward, and you just knew that if a good delivery comes into the box here, that's going to end in something, and there he is. So I think credit to him for the second half performance. I think that he, like you say, he got in the right position at the right time, but on the whole, I think it wasn't his best game for Lazio.
And again, it's incredible how Lulic crosses. He's always, if you notice, a lot of Lulic crosses transform in assist, in goals. It's incredible. Even knowing that he's not the more talented winger we have, but when he gets there, he's really, really dangerous and makes a difference. Before wrapping it up, Alistair, I was a little bit disappointed Lulic didn't score against Andreazzoli. That was my only wish for today.
Yeah, but is it not enough to get a 1-0 win against Andrea Toy? I mean, we could have maybe got the minute right, if we got it
Absolutely.
maybe about 10, 15 minutes later, then perfect. But yeah,
Yeah,
another 1-0 win.
makes sense. Against Andrea Soli, it's only 1-0. Alistair, before we close, you have your stats. You said you had a page full, so you have a couple of minutes.
Okay, well, when I said that, I may have exaggerated a little bit.
Okay, 30 seconds.
I've got four different stats, and one of them's interesting, the others are kind of interesting. Lazio, yeah, so it was tonight's game was the battle between the two teams who scored the most goals in Serie A and Serie B last season. Lazio got 89, Empoli got 88. So I thought that was quite interesting, and it was, before the game expected it to have a lot more goals than it did. So it's funny that it ended 1-0 considering how many goals both teams scored last season. Lazio won their last 3 away games against newly promoted teams in Serie A by scoring at least 3 goals in each match. So tonight hasn't quite lived up to that record. But again, that means it's now four away wins in a row against newly promoted teams, which is pretty good. And the one that I find the most interesting, I don't have the updated stats because this is a pre-match stat, but Lazio have going into this game, had the third worst shot conversion rate in Serie A this season, which was 4.8%. And last season, Lazio had the best rate of shot conversion, which was 16.1. Now, I don't know, I feel like this is the kind of stat that can propel us into an entirely new debate. But what does that tell you? I mean, it means that we're still creating the chances, but the shots that we're having aren't turning into goals. And I would say a lot of that is probably down to that Frosinone game, and it may well have changed after tonight, but 4.8% shot conversion rate is pretty bad.
Yeah, I agree. And I think it's big part due to Frosinone Lazio. Before wrapping up, an important message, because we receive message from some of our listeners who complain about the quality of their radio and audio, and you are completely right. But don't forget that me and Alistair are doing other jobs. This is something we do because we like and because we think you appreciate our having a podcast about Lazio in English from two sport journalists. But we're doing it completely free. I'm joking about the salary of Alistair, but I'm not paying him nothing and he doesn't get nothing. But obviously we have costs. We have Spreaker costs that is not cheap. And obviously we love to have a professional microphone, but we cannot adjust but one. But Alistair obviously need a new one. So that's why we had our Patreon page, to support us and help us improve the quality of our podcast and, repay us the cost that we are paying for Spreaker, for a channel, etc., etc. So I can understand that sometimes the audio is not great. If you want to help us, there's our Patreon page, and you can help us, and then we can buy Alistair a nice microphone and do a better podcast. So remember, patreon.com/Lazio Lounge. Membership starts from $3. If you subscribe 10 after 3 months, we give you a mug who costs $10. So pretty much you get 1 month free if you do that. And you can follow us on Twitter, on Facebook, and obviously subscribe to our iTunes podcast and rate us there, because the higher rated we get, the more visibility our podcast gets, and so more listeners we have. Alistair, thank you again for joining us. Are you going to the next Roma match?
I should be, yeah.
Perfect. Now I know what to. I know what.
And I'll also be at Lazio Apollon Thursday and Lazio Genoa Sunday. So I'll hopefully try and do some videos and things like that for the social media pages as well.
Okay, thank you very much, Alistair. Thanks everybody for listening. And again, we're going to talk next Thursday after Lazio Apollon. Thank you, everybody.